There's a conversation happening right now, in boardrooms, on the news, and probably at your dinner table, and it's making a lot of people uneasy. You've heard the sound bites. Geoffrey Hinton, one of the so-called godfathers of AI, leaves Google to warn us about the technology he helped create. You hear Elon Musk call it our biggest existential threat. And then you see the numbers. A report from Goldman Sachs estimates that generative AI could impact 300 million full-time jobs worldwide. The World Economic Forum predicts that in the next 5 years, nearly a quarter of all jobs will be disrupted. So, if you're feeling a low-grade, constant anxiety about your career, you're not being paranoid. You're paying attention. It feels like we're all in a race against an opponent we can't see, an opponent that never gets tired. And this is where the conversation typically splits into two dead ends. The first is paralysis and fear. The second is the frantic advice to simply run faster, to try and out-hustle the machine at its own game, focusing on the very technical skills that AI itself is rapidly learning to master. But what if the entire premise of that race is wrong? What if the narrative of man versus machine is a distraction from what's really happening? This isn't a story about replacement. It's a story about relevance. Let me explain. Before tools like Microsoft Excel existed, financial planning was done on enormous paper ledgers. An analyst could spend days with a calculator and a pencil manually building a forecast. If a single number changed, they had to start all over again. Then, spreadsheets arrived and automated that entire process. The task was tedious, slow, and incredibly restrictive. AI is that same phenomenon, on an exponential scale. It is a world-class tool for making tasks, not people, obsolete. It's designed to automate the predictable, the repetitive, and the data-heavy. And that is not a threat. It is an opportunity, if you know how to see it. So, this video isn't about how to become a slightly better operator of the machine. It's about how to build a skill set that works in a category AI can't even enter. We're going to break down the 5 core human skills that shift you from a position of competing with AI to a position of directing it. It's time to stop worrying about your job's expiration date and start working on your new advantage. Skill 1. Strategic synthesis. Concise version. So, let's get into the first skill. I call it strategic synthesis. Now, that might sound complex, but the idea is simple. AI is an incredible librarian. It knows the what from every book ever written, but it struggles to understand the so what. It can give you key takeaways from a book on Roman history and a paper on supply chain management, but it can't make the intuitive leap between them to see how Roman road building could inspire a whole new distribution network. AI operates on past patterns. It's phenomenal at finding needles in a haystack, but it can't imagine a new kind of needle. Your brain can. The easiest way to grasp this is to think like a chef. An AI trained on every recipe is a flawless line cook. Give it an order, it executes perfectly. But it could never be the head chef, because the head chef doesn't just follow recipes, they invent them. They create something new by connecting the memory of a spice from Thailand, a classic French technique, and a secret sauce recipe from their grandmother. That fusion is strategic synthesis, the uniquely human skill of creating something entirely new. So, how do you become an idea chef? First, you have to deliberately collect diverse ingredients. This means you must read, watch, and learn far outside the boundaries of your job description. If you're in finance, don't just read finance books. Pick up a book on biology and study how ecosystems manage resources without a central planner. If you're a marketer, read about military strategy. Understand how concepts like flanking or securing high ground apply to a product launch. Second, you have to practice connecting those ideas. Get a notebook, your connection journal. Each day, force two different concepts to have a conversation on the page. Ask questions like, what can a beehive structure teach me about building a resilient team? How could minimalist design apply to our company's budget? The goal isn't to find the right answer. The goal is to train your brain to see the valuable connections that an algorithm will always miss. Skill 2. High-stakes communication, the trust broker. Strategic synthesis was about connecting ideas. This second skill is about connecting with people, especially when the pressure is on. I call it high-stakes communication. AI is already a masterful writer. It can draft a perfect email. But the most important moments in our careers don't happen on a screen. They happen in rooms filled with tension and unspoken agendas. An AI can process words, but it can't see the hesitation in a client's eyes, feel the energy shift in a collapsing negotiation, or mediate a truce between feuding colleagues. It can't build trust. Because trust isn't built on perfect grammar. It's built by navigating the messy, emotional landscape where real decisions get made. This is the work of a trust broker. An AI can be a scribe, but it can't be a broker of human connection. This skill isn't learned from a book. It's forged in the fire of uncomfortable conversations. So you have to actively seek out that pressure. First, volunteer for the presentation everyone else is scared to give. That's where you learn to read an audience, not just your slides, and win over skeptics. Second, practice low-stakes negotiation. Call your cable company or haggle at a flea market. The goal isn't saving money. It's getting comfortable with the push and pull when both sides want something different. Finally, when someone is speaking, listen for the feeling behind their words, the unspoken fear or hope. Listening for what isn't being said is how you move from just hearing to truly understanding. AI can manage information. It takes a human to manage meaning. Skill 3. Applied empathy, the why detective. So we've talked about connecting ideas and people. This third skill is about understanding the unspoken truth behind human behavior. This is applied empathy. In the age of AI, it might be the most valuable form of intelligence there is. An AI can analyze your company's HR data and tell you, with perfect accuracy, that one specific team has an employee turnover rate that is double the company average. It gives you a perfect map of what is happening. And that's where its usefulness ends, because it can never tell you why. It can't tell you that the manager of that team, while brilliant, creates a culture of fear where no one feels safe to make a mistake. It can't sense the quiet burnout of team members who feel their work is disconnected from any real meaning. An AI can spot the statistical symptom. It can never diagnose the human cause. AI is a master of data. It is blind to experience. Your job is to become a detective of that experience, to go beyond the numbers and find the human story. That's the difference between data and wisdom. So how do you build this skill? Not with more spreadsheets. You get it by getting out into the world. First, call a customer. Don't send another survey. Surveys give you more what. A real conversation gives you the why. Ask them, walk me through the last time you used our service, and listen for the pauses. That's where the real data is. Second, become an anthropologist of your industry. Go observe people interacting with a product or service like yours. Watch for their moments of confusion, their small frustrations. You're training yourself to see the invisible friction that an algorithm will never register. Data shows you the path people took. Empathy tells you why they stumbled along the way. Skill 4. Adaptive problem framing, the architect. The first 3 skills were about gathering insight. This fourth skill is about what you do with it. It's called adaptive problem framing. Think of it this way. AI is an incredible solution generator. Feed it a well-defined problem and it delivers answers in seconds. But its biggest weakness is that it cannot question the question. Give it the wrong frame, and you get a brilliant solution to the wrong problem. You wouldn't ask builders to just start building. You'd bring in an architect first. The architect's job isn't to build, it's to define the problem the house is meant to solve. In the age of AI, your most critical role is to be that architect. Einstein said if he had an hour to save the world, he'd spend 55 minutes defining the problem and 5 on the solution. For decades, our value came from those 5 minutes, having the answer. Now, AI is the champion of the 5 minutes. Your entire advantage has shifted to the quality of your 55. So how do you practice this? Next time you face a challenge, resist the urge to find solutions. Instead, force yourself to write down at least 5 different ways to frame the problem. For example, if our sales are down, is that a sales training problem, a marketing problem, a product problem, or a customer success problem because we're losing existing customers? Each frame points to a completely different universe of solutions. An AI can explore each path, but it takes human wisdom to know which paths are worth exploring in the first place. An AI can give you 1,000 answers. Your value is in asking the one right question. Skill 5. Cultivating alliances, the human glue. So, we've covered 4 critical skills: connecting ideas, navigating difficult conversations, understanding human behavior, and framing the right problems. But none of them work in a vacuum. They are all powered by this 5th final skill: cultivating alliances. An AI can map your company's org chart, but it is completely blind to the strength of the bonds. It can't see that a project got approved because of a hallway conversation built on years of trust. It can't quantify the loyalty a junior employee feels for a manager who mentored them. It sees the structure, but misses the trust. This is the human glue, the invisible substance that holds valuable work together when pressure is high. In a world of digital transactions, trust is the last true analog currency. It cannot be automated. So, how do you cultivate this? Realize your relationships are a garden, not a vending machine. You have to tend to them. Here's your action for this week. Identify 3 people in your professional life you haven't spoken to in 6 months. Send them a simple, genuine message offering something with no expectation of return. It could be, "I saw this article and thought of your project," or just, "If you ever need a sounding board for an idea, let me know." The goal is to give without expectation. You're not just building a network, you're weaving a fabric of trust that will support you and them for years. And that is something a machine will never build. So I'll leave you with one final practical step. Tonight, look back at your calendar from the last week. Be honest. How many hours were spent on predictable, automatable work? The janitor tasks. And how many were spent on the messy, unpredictable human work we talked about today? That ratio? That's your roadmap. It tells you exactly where your focus needs to go. Now, if this conversation was valuable to you, a like is always appreciated. But more importantly, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's the one human skill you're going to focus on this month? And finally, this isn't just a one-off video. This is an ongoing conversation about how to thrive by becoming more human, not less. Subscribing is the best way to make sure you're in the room for the next one. Stop worrying about being replaced. Start building your irreplaceable advantage.